Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, you know, they say that universal background checks save lives. They say that without universal background checks, then guns are going to get into the hands of the wrong people and bad things are going to happen. But as we know, no matter what the database is, there is in fact some human that develops the database, and there is some human being in charge of putting data into the database, thus making those systems only as good as the people who set them up. And sometimes that can lead to big problems, and sometimes that can lead to big expensive problems that we as taxpayers may have to actually pay out for. So today, let's get you updated about a very important issue and talk about when your Justice Department spends millions of your dollars to settle a mass shooting case. Okay, so the story we're talking about today broke back on April 5th, and apparently there has been a huge settlement between the United States Department of Justice, a branch that your ATF lies under, I might point out, and the victims and families of a horrific mass shooting that took place in 2017 in the state of Texas. The amount of the settlement reached between the United States government and the families and victims of this shooting is in the neighborhood of $144 million. Let me say that again, $144 million. Now, this deals with a horrific shooting that took place in Texas, Sutherland, Texas, back in 2017. 26 people were killed at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs that particular day. And the individual responsible for this carnage was an individual named Devin Patrick Kelly. Now, Mr. Kelly had previously served in the United States Air Force, but was discharged in 2014 for bad conduct. What was the bad conduct that got Mr. Kelly discharged from the United States Air Force? Oh, that was a conviction, a felony conviction for domestic violence. So the shooter in this case, just 3 years prior to this shooting, had been convicted of felony domestic violence while serving in the United States Air Force, and then was, of course, dishonorably discharged from the Air Force for that felony conviction. Now, I know this may come as a shock to many of you, but when Mr. Kelly attempted to purchase those firearms ultimately used in that slaughter, well, he lied on his 4473. I know many of you are shocked. Oh my God, nobody ever lies on a 4473, right? Well, yes, he did in fact lie on it. He said that he'd never been convicted of a felony. Not true. He said he'd never been dishonorably discharged from the United States service. Also not true. But hey, this is what we get universal background checks for. This is what we got all the NICS system and all these other criminal databases for, right? Well, here's the problem. You see, after Mr. Kelly was convicted of a felony, a rather serious felony involving domestic violence, the United States Air Force neglected to ever make a notation on Mr. Kelly's background. The United States Air Force never entered any of this information onto his FBI background check, onto the NICS system, or anything. There was no record of his felony conviction. There was no record of his dishonorable discharge from the military. Therefore, when he lied on his 4473, the gun store had no other way of checking. Why? Due to the negligence of another United States governmental agency. Had the United States Air Force done what we expect every government agency to do, done exactly why we say that universal background checks save lives, had they just entered that data on there, Mr. Kelly would not have been able to legally purchase these firearms. Do we believe that that would have precluded a mass shooting? In all likelihood, no, it wouldn't, because most criminals do not care about gun laws when they're hell-bent on committing violent crime. However, the ability of Mr. Kelly to easily access firearms and ammunition and to carry out this slaughter was, in fact, created by gross negligence on the United States Air Force's part. But here's the problem, folks. You and I are the ones that are paying for it, because there is now a $144 million settlement that all of us as taxpayers will be paying. Now, what's the lesson to learn from this other than, well, government agencies don't know what they're doing? We don't really need to teach you a lesson in that. The lesson is this, is that people can scream as much as they want about how effective universal background checks are and how they're what's going to ultimately save lives. But all background check systems are developed by human beings, and all data that's entered into background check systems are entered into there by human beings. And until we invent the perfect human being, we will always be susceptible to error, to mistake, to neglect, to negligence. That is the human factor and why universal background checks simply do not work as well as those who propose them believe they do. Am I opposed to background checks? No, I'm not. I live in a state of Washington where I got to go through a background check to do just about anything related to firearms. However, do I believe that background checks will absolutely, positively catch all the bad people all the time? Oh, absolutely not. They will not. And even if they do, well, that's not going to stop bad people from doing bad things. Listen, you may have more questions about this issue, anything else related to your Second Amendment rights. If you do, you should know how to contact Washington Gun Law by now. But if you don't, hey, all of that information is right there in the description box. In the meantime, I do want all of you to remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.